So I met Mary at one of the Rotary Zone Institute, and she was just full of energy, and then I got to know her ever since then. Mary is a member of Rotary Club of Johnstown in Pennsylvania, and she's also a licensed clinical psychologist. And she was first she joined the group study exchange in 2002 to Sweden. Now I understand why her husband is from Sweden. And she also served as district governor at 2008-9, and she has been serving in the zone level as a Rotary coordinator, and she also has been training leaders for International Assembly for all the district governor-elect from around the world. In 2019 and 20, she's also been selected as president's rep many times, representing RI president to district conference. And most of all, she is just a wonderful, energetic Rotarian, doing all the good things, everything she can. So let's just give her a warm welcome, Mary.
Thank you so much, Eric. Good to see you. I love meeting new Rotarians around the world. I always like to say that I'm a citizen of the world instead of Pennsylvania, because I really feel like every time I go to a new club meeting, my Rotary family just gets bigger and bigger. So thank you for inviting me into your Rotary family today. So I want you all to think about this next 20 minutes or so as your virtual psychology therapy session. So you're now on my couch, and whatever it is that's bothering you, whether it's politics, the upcoming election, whether it's COVID-19 or other stressful things, whatever it might be in your life, I want you to think about that situation and apply these tips there, because really all of these tips that I'm going to be giving you for staying sane and reducing anxiety and depression are good for really just about anything, not just COVID-19. So, all right, so the first thing I want to do is tell you that typically speaking, when I get a new patient on my couch, I like to assess how much information do they really have about their situation, because typically information is power. But in the case of politics right now, social unrest and COVID-19, information has actually become the source of stress, anxiety, and depression. It has just begun to really overwhelm people and make them feel anxious and irritable. So my first tip is to absolutely limit the amount of information that you allow into your environment. I think most of us over-information ourselves. We are on our phones all day long, on the computers all day long, checking Facebook, Twitter, etc. The news may be on the background all the time on televisions. I'm going to suggest to you that you stop that behavior immediately, because most of what we're hearing now is just chatter and opinion, and is not fact. And information for things that are stressing you out should be fact-based, not opinion-based. I limit my information regarding politics and COVID to just twice per day. Morning time, I like to start with my county, my local news, so that I'm up to date on what's happening, because God only knows the rules change every day, but at the end of the day, I check a more global source, because I do want to know what's happening in the rest of the world, because like I said, I'm a citizen of the world because of Rotary, and I really do want to know what's happening throughout, not just the United States, but everywhere, so that I can feel connected to my Rotary friends and family. So, but my golden rule regarding negative information is I don't allow any news, media, negative information into my psyche, into my world, or in my environment past about 7 p.m. at night. And the reason being is that your psyche really does need time to sort of shake out all of the negative input from the day, so that you can actually enter into very restful and peaceful sleep. A lot of negative news and negative information right before you sleep can actually cause major disruptions in your REM sleep, your REM sleep. That's where your dreams happen. And you do not want nasty dreams. You want, good, healthy dreams, restful dreams that help you get into your next day peacefully. So part of that is limiting what you allow into your input into your environment towards the end of your night. So no news media after 7:30 at night. Golden rule. Okay, secondly, let's talk about schedule. So in the beginning of COVID-19, for about the first 45 days, we saw that everybody sort of just threw their schedules away. We were all, put on lockdown, into quarantine, told to stay home. We were trying to navigate, how do you work from home? What's this Zoom thing? How do we do Rotary? And so everybody felt very much sort of askew when it came to their schedules. But if you haven't returned to your normal schedule, you should. But it's very important that if you're working from the computer now, like I am, I'm almost 100% telemedicine. And all of my Rotary business is of course, Zooming. So if you're doing the same thing, it's very important that every 2 hours you take a mental and physical break from your computer screen. It's important that you actually engage a different part of your brain than staring at a blue screen. So taking a 10-minute break and exercising, taking a brisk walk, doing some stretching, reading from a novel, listening to some light music, anything you can to do something different will actually make you more productive and more successful at the end of your day. Science has actually shown that to be a fact, that people who take scheduled breaks are in fact, at the end of their day, more able to attain their work-related goals. So you would think just powering through your day would make you more successful and you'd feel more productive. Not true. So taking breaks, super important. All right, I want to shift now and talk a little bit about the neurochemistry of mood, because I think that's really important, that it's not always just our environment, but there is something about what's happening in our brains and bodies. So there are three chemicals, big chemicals, the big three that are helpful in helping us to maintain a positive mood, and they are serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine. So serotonin, the best way to get that to be produced in your brain as a neurotransmitter is, again, through light exercise. So every 2 hours, if you can get 10 minutes of exercise in at that point, it's great for boosting serotonin levels in your brain. And the more exercise you can get through the day, if you can get up to an hour, even better. So people who are exercising more typically are happier people. They have more serotonin in their presynaptic gaps in the brain, and the brain is producing it at a higher level. So exercise and happiness are actually best friends. Now, oxytocin, that chemical, I like to call that the hug drug, because it is best released into your system when you are intimate. And I mean intimate. So, if you can get a kiss or a hug or a little something, that's really good for oxytocin production. And a big burst of oxytocin can leave people feeling euphoric and happy for even days. So, it's important to get that squeeze, that hug from someone. And if you don't have a person to hug, even if you hug a pillow or even if you have a pet, give them a big hug and a kiss, that helps to release oxytocin. So anything you can do for intimacy, you will be producing oxytocin in your system. Now, the third one, dopamine. Dopamine is one of our primary neurotransmitters as well for happiness. And there are a couple things that you can do to improve your production and release of dopamine in your brain. So the first thing is gratitude. When we reflect on things that we're grateful for, our brains begin to produce dopamine. But when we give it away to someone else, when we give gratitude to someone else, even more. And I think that's that service aspect of when you do something kind for someone, you know how that makes you feel so good inside. That's dopamine. So I want each one of you to take 1 second here and think about one person you're grateful for and why. All right, got them? Okay. After today's meeting, I want you to text, call, email, or in person, tell that person why you're grateful for them. And watch what happens in your system. See if you can catch it, especially if you have a Zoom or a phone call or a live conversation with someone. See if you can catch the feeling of like how good that makes you feel to tell them why you're grateful for them. That's dopamine. That's what dopamine feels like. So very important to remind yourself what you're grateful for and also tell people why you're grateful for them. Now, there's another physiological thing that you can do that takes only about 5 seconds that will begin for your neurotransmitters to start producing dopamine. And I want us all to do it together here. So everyone lean in, come closer to me. Come on, bring it in. Everyone get close to your cameras. There you go. All right, on my count of 3, I want you to mimic my facial expression, okay? And we'll hold it for 5 seconds. All right, on my count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go. Good. Nice smiles, by the way. All right, so did you know that your brain has no idea whether a smile is faked, forced, or real? It just feels the muscles go up and it goes, oh, she's smiling. Let's start producing dopamine. And your brain will literally start producing dopamine, even if your smile is faked. So much so that I do smiling exercises with my depressed patients on the couch. I make them smile for periods of time. And at home, I ask them to go to a mirror and smile into the mirror. It's unbelievable how you can begin to create new neural pathways within your brain by smiling more often, even if forced or faked. So when you're feeling blah and down and irritable at home, try smiling. Even watching a funny movie or listening to something, funny on a podcast or something. Anything you can do to get that smile movement on your face. You have to feel it for your brain to recognize it, and you can begin to produce dopamine. And dopamine makes, someone just said, Eric says, I'm going to fake my smile all day. I love it. It's not hard to once you start smiling. Funny thing about the smile too, what happens when you see someone yawn? You yawn, right? It's contagious. The smile is contagious. So pull your mask down and smile at people, even strangers, and it's crazy. They will not be able to not smile back at you. It's really hard to resist a smile. And so again, not only are you creating dopamine in yourself, you're creating it in other people by making them smile. They don't even know you're doing it. So it's a great way to make everybody else around you get a little dopamine burst. All right, so there are some enemies, though, to the happiness factor, to dopamine and serotonin, and I would say that the biggest enemy is anxiety, actually. So here's how anxiety actually works in the brain. So your left and your right hemisphere, in the backs of your brain, you have little tiny almond-shaped things called the amygdala. And when you begin to worry about something, your amygdalas light up. And they send a message to your hypothalamus. And your hypothalamus then turns on all that fight, flight, and freeze response, that autonomic nervous system response, like your adrenaline glands start shooting out adrenal fluids. All of that physiological stuff that you know is anxiety. You get butterflies in your stomach, you sweat, you can't find your words. That's anxiety in its physiology. That is the relay system between the amygdalas and the hypothalamus. So there are a couple things that you can actually do to reduce the amygdala's power to turn it off. First is about your thought process. So anxiety, in order to really become alive and fester, it requires time. So you need to ruminate about whatever it is you're thinking about, whatever it is you're anxious about. You need to think about it. And anxiety does really, really good when you're in the future, when you're doing what if thinking. What if I get sick? What if someone I know gets COVID? What if I lose my job? What if this goes on all winter long? What if, what if, what if? Anxiety loves the what ifs because you're giving it time to ruminate. And it thrives like in a petri dish, just growing in the future. Now, anxiety also does really well in the past. That would be your would've, could've, should've thinking. So where anxiety doesn't like to live, where it really cannot fester or thrive, is when you are in the right here, the right now, the present. Mindful presence of being in your life where you're at. But it's kind of hard to always be there, isn't it? You know, we start thinking about the future, we end up in the past. It's not easy to stay mindfully present all the time. And golly gee, there you are, anxious all of a sudden. When that happens and you find yourself being anxious, having a panic attack, worrying, and you can't stop the thoughts, here are a couple things you can actually do to literally, biologically turn off the amygdala. So the first is with deep breathing exercises. Now, to do a proper deep breath, it cannot be fast. It must be very slow. And you also have to inhale through your nose. You cannot inhale through your mouth. It won't work the same way. So you inhale through your nose, you then hold your breath for a few seconds, and then you exhale through your mouth. Now, when I say slow, I mean slow. And I'm going to demonstrate for you just how slow I mean. Now, I'm good at this because I do it every day with my patients. But the more practiced you do this, the better you'll get at it at slowing down the process of inhaling and exhaling. Okay, so here's what a proper deep breath should look like. Inhaling. Holding. And exhale. Then I check in with my body. There it is. I can feel when my body goes, and just feels really good. That is the amygdala turning off, the good chemicals being released in my brain, my whole body relaxing into it. And when you get good at it, you actually can feel a sensation happen. I kind of feel it in my lower face and in my chest, somewhere between here and here. I can't explain what it feels like, but it's just this, and it's probably different for everybody. But the more you practice, you check in with your body, see how you can catch it. Now, I'd like for you all to practice this after today's session. Do 2 to 3 breaths in a row, and you saw that took me about 20 to 30 seconds per round. Do it seated in a chair or on the couch or the floor because you can get lightheaded. So it's best if you're in your seat in case you fall over. And again, try 2 or 3 in a row and see if you can catch that relax, that moment when your body gives into it. It's really powerful. All right, so if you can't do that or it's not working for you and you're still feeling anxious, there's another thing that you can do that is incredibly powerful, and I'm using it, I would say, with 95% of my patients, and it's something that every one of you can do at home. You can do it anywhere, really. It's called bilateral sound therapy, and here's how it works, and I'm going to give you a link for it here in a minute. You take your earbuds or your headset and you plug in, and you're going to listen to this very engineered type of sound and music. And you close your eyes, and you'll notice that you hear the sound in one ear and then the next, and then over to this ear and then back to this ear. It's not coming in both ears exactly at the same time. It's different like so. And your eyes should begin to track the sound. And that should happen very naturally behind your closed eyelids. But if it doesn't, you can just move your eyes. It'll start to happen though naturally, left to right. And as your ears and your eyes are going, sometimes you can even feel a shape of the sound. And as that happens, a very specific type of brainwave begins to occur. And that actually crosses over the top of the 2 hemispheres, crossing the midline section of the 2 left and right hemispheres. And that particular brainwave turns off the amygdalas. Don't know why, but imaging shows that these cannot stay on when that type of brainwave is happening. And so therapists are using this to take people out of their panic attacks, to reduce anxiety, reduce depression. Irritability and anger works amazing for that. Also, it's very helpful for sleep and causing relaxation. When I use it, I even use it with my eyes open to do paperwork when I really need to focus, and I find that it really just sort of centralizes me in an unusual way that just really hones my focus. I'm going to give you a link for it now. This is my favorite resource for bilateral sound, and this is David Grand. He actually called it biolateral, but if you Google bilateral, you'll get all kinds of things too. You can just find him on YouTube, and this album is called Brain Spotting, and it's free on YouTube. And you can also find it on iTunes and Spotify. You can go to Amazon and buy a CD if you prefer that. You can go to his website and he'll sell you CDs for 3 times as much, I'm sure. So however you want to get your bilateral sound, and if you don't like David Grand, try anybody. But he's one of my favorite resources. He's one of the founding fathers of this technique. And I just think his product is amazing. And I do use it myself frequently. And I find it to be just very useful for relaxation. And again, I even use it with my eyes open. I have a patient who has vertigo and cannot close their eyes to do this. So I will just have her track my finger ever so slightly to get her eyes moving. And sometimes you don't even have to make your eyes move for it to have an effect. But David Grand, Bilateral Sound Healing, Brain Spotting is the name of this particular album. All right. Okay, so my last tip of the day is really regarding decision making. So I'm sure you all would agree with me that so much of these times right now are completely out of our control. You know, we can only do so much. However, how we come out of this time at the end of the pandemic, we have to understand that some of that is within our control. Did you use this time for the better, or did you fail to use it? Did you decide that you were going to reach certain goals during this pandemic and become a better person at the end? If not, you still have time, because guess what? I think we're going to have the whole winter in front of us. So there's plenty of time to set some goals. Now, I want to say something about goals. Every day, here's mine right here on my pad. Every day I write down my goals for the day. It's not just a to-do list. These are my goals. Hydration goal, fitness goal, nutrition goal, Rotary goal, and work goal. Those are my 5 things every day. I have a to-do list as well, but that's different. It's important that you write your goals down, because a written goal is a much stronger goal, and people who write them down and keep them where they can see them all day long actually are more accountable to reaching their goals. So you'll have better success of attaining your goals if you write them down and keep them where you can see them each and every day. So decide right now that life is not on pause. Life is weird, it is strange, but it is not on pause because we're in quarantine, or we're socially distanced, or we're in Zoom all the time. It's not on pause. Decide how you're going to be a better person because of this. Early on, I made some decisions about fitness. I know, Eric, you follow me on Facebook. Yeah, I am this close to doing a pull-up. Crazy goal, but I want to be able to do a pull-up by the end of this damn pandemic. I made some fitness goals. I made some vocational goals, and that was to be able to do vocational service this way. So I want to be a better Rotarian. I want to be a better neighbor. I made some decisions of some things I wanted to achieve personally. So what do you want to do with this time? How do you want to be better at the end of this? I think there's going to be some great sort of renaissance of the human spirit. We will value things differently forever because of COVID-19. The human touch, for instance, will be valued differently. I am a hugger. I can't wait to hug people again randomly. Well, not quite randomly, not like in the grocery store, but but pretty randomly. I missed that. And I didn't realize how much I valued the human hug, but I understand that now. I value it now, and I will never, ever undervalue a hug ever again. I'm changed for the better in that respect. How I touch things is different now. I'm not so nonchalant about touching things and putting them back like an apple in the grocery store or something. So I think we are going to be changed, but how we're going to be changed is up to us. That is within my control. So those are my 5 hot tips for the day of how to stay sane during these very odd times. And I would be happy to open it up to questions if anybody has them.
I'm pretty sure there will be some questions. Anybody want to jump in? Mark?
Mary? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, wonderful, just a great presentation. Do you have any favorite books to suggest to us? I was hoping you might have your own book that you could suggest that we all go on Amazon and buy.
Okay, you cannot believe how many people tell me to write a book, and someday I might actually do that. You know, I don't have any
right after the
favorite.
pull-up. Do it
Yeah,
right
right after the pull-up. You know, I don't have any favorite psychology books. It may sound strange. I do most of my training online. I do dabble with reading some various things here and there. I pick at books more than anything. I'm going to give you the name of a book just for fun, though. Does anybody here like Dan Brown? Okay, everyone loves Dan Brown, right? Okay, here is the next Dan Brown. His name is Elliot Mason, and everyone is talking about him as the next Dan Brown, and his book is called The Arlington Orders, if you like historical fiction. And I just finished that book. Fabulous. He's a friend of mine, so yes, I'm you know, promoting his book, but at the same time, great read. And he's about to come out with his next book, which will be called The Legal Killers. But this one was really fabulous, and I encourage you to just have fun reading if you can. There's so much online now that you can get, great podcasts. You know, I'll have to think, Mark, if there's anything I can think of that's really a great read. I'll send it to Eric and he can post it with you guys. I tend to dabble, and I'll have 6 books going at one time and, you know, jump from one to the other. So sorry I couldn't answer that any better. Any other questions?
Mary, I had a question. You mentioned on your list of goals every day, hydration.
Yeah, so the more stressed we are, the faster we become dehydrated.
Okay.
And so water is incredibly important to mental health. And I find what's one of the first questions I ask my patients, and I find that most people are really under drinking. My minimum goal is 64 ounces, and I really try to get closer to 80 per day. Not only does it improve your mental health, it can also improve your physical health. When people start to get up towards 72 and 80 ounces, you'll find that you even start to lose weight. So everything is connected, you know, mind, body, and soul, and we are water. So get your Rotary glass out and fill it up and drink up, folks, because water is everything. So look at that, all these Rotary cups come out. Yeah, absolutely. And as far as nutrition goes, you know, I try to avoid processed food as much as possible. I try to eat whole foods, as little sugar as possible. Moderate carbs, you know, more veggies, lean meats, things like that. I'm kind of a health nut, but I also do love my red wine, I admit it. So try to keep that into moderation. It's not good for my waistline. But yeah, 64 to 80 ounces a day.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Sure.
So I have a question. A lot of times when I have a project or something, and then I always end up getting the great idea like right before I fall asleep. But then I'm too lazy to get up to write it down. Is there any way to shift that thought process or change that so I can be more productive in like either work or for Rotary?
So interesting. You know, Einstein's best ideas supposedly came after he had been napping. When he was at rest, he would say, my best ideas come when I'm at rest, after resting. So there's something about the psyche that when everything just starts to, like I said, shake out, you're left with the good stuff. So whatever's happening for you, it's coming right before you sleep. Do you keep your phone next to your bed? Okay, just voice memo it. Get it out, voice memo it to yourself or text yourself, and that way you have it the next morning, you can just leave it. But whatever's coming to you then is important because that is when you're at rest. And typically when we're not thinking about other things and we're falling into rest, we do get our best ideas. So don't change that. Just, I'm not going to get up and write anything down either. I voice memo myself I have more text to me than anybody else. So that's what I would recommend.
Okay. Okay, any other questions or thoughts that anybody has?
I just want to say real quick, Mary, thank you so much. This was such a great presentation. And as someone who's never dealt with anxiety before, but since the pandemic has begun, I am finding myself getting a little bit of anxiety here and there. And thank you for those tools. I'm going to try them out immediately. So
Fantastic.
thank you very much.
Great.
I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Patrick. Absolutely my pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, Mary, my wife teaches preschool and 3 and 4-year-olds, and that can be stressful in and of itself. But then teaching in a pandemic situation where you're masked up, you have a visor on, and you're expected to try to cuddle with 3 and 4-year-olds when they need it. It adds to even more anxiety. So there are plenty of stress points around for everybody.
Yeah, these are strange times for sure, but we're going to get through them, and we'll have a lot of positive lessons from this.
Well, thank you so much for this. Gwen, did you have something?
Mary,
Can you speak up just a little bit, Gwen?
I can hear you.
It would help if I put the microphone here, wouldn't it? Do you participate in other Rotary projects in other districts and stuff?
I do. I was just in Virginia a little while back and did some things there. So sometimes that's virtually. Mostly it's through speaking, but I do participate in other projects whenever I can get to them. I used to, of course, more before the pandemic. I was a huge Rotary traveler. This is my 110th vocational. This is my 110th meeting for giving this talk or similar talks to it. So I am enjoying this so much, but I do participate in whatever I can.
I would love to send you an invitation to a program we're going to have on the 26th here in our district.
Yeah.
It's the second in a series of what we're calling critical conversations.
Okay, great. Yeah.
And this one is like, well, we're having Stephen Kleinberg, who is a very well respected, I guess you'd say demographer here, statistician and demographer. And so we're going to be looking at why is it important to have some of these conversations we don't want to have.
Great.
And how best to go about having them with each other.
Oh, I'd love that. And if I can't make the time, it depends on my patience. If you're recording it,
absolutely.
That would be, I'd love to take the recording thereafter, because I'm sure that could help me in my practice and just everything I'm doing. So
could you put an email address or something in the chat for us? That'd be great.
All right. Do anyone else have any questions for Mary? Well, if not, Mary, thank you so much. I mean, this has been so enlightening and helpful. I took copious notes while you were talking, and I'm going to go back and read through them and go to David Grand and see if I can get a few things in order. So
wonderful. Yeah. Thank you all for having me, and take care.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.